All right. Good morning, everybody. If we can ask everybody to grab their seats, we're going to get started here. I'm going to call to order the regular board meeting of the Washoe County Commissioners for Tuesday, February 11th. And at this time, I would ask that Miss Amy Cummings, would you lead us in the Pledge of the Flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Cummings. All right. Madam Clerk, can I have the roll call, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Marcia Burkbigler, Vice Chair. Here. Kitty Jung is absent. Von Hartung.
Here.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
County Manager Eric Brown. Here. Assistant District Attorney Dave Watts-Vial.
Here.
I'm Nancy Parent, County Clerk. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. So right before we get into our appearances, I want to welcome Mr. Dave Watts-Vial, who will be now our permanent fixture down there as our DA. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you very much.
Please guide us and let us not get into any legal conundrums throughout the year or for the remainder, please.
That's my goal.
Thank you, sir. All right. With that, we are on to item number 3. Mr. Manager.
Yes, item number 3. We have a presentation this morning from Amy Cummings, who's the interim director of the Regional Transportation Commission. Welcome, Ms. Cummings.
Good morning, Ms. Cummings. How are you?
Thank you so much. Doing very well. Thank you. I appreciate being on your agenda today. We are launching the start of the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. So we wanted one of our first efforts to come here to visit you and get any input that you may have for us or priorities that you want us to look at as we go through the year-long process of developing this plan. So as many of you are familiar, the purpose of the plan is to identify the investments that our region will be making in our transit system and our regional roads over the next 30 years. We want this to be a very community-based process. We'll be out with the public frequently over the next year, and we hope to have a draft plan by the fall of this year. We have a little bit of a cushion in our schedule. We have to have it completed by May of 2021, but we think it'll be done a little bit before that. As I mentioned, we are here to talk to you as one of our first steps to get your input. We hope to be back later in the summer when we have a draft concept of improvements for your input at that point. Our first public workshop is going to be on February 27th. We'll be over at the Nevada Discovery Museum. We also appreciate your staff participating in the agency working group that's meeting about every other month as we put this plan together. We'll also be convening an inter-county group that will reach out to our partners in Story County, Carson City, in the Lake Tahoe area, as well as Placer County and some of our California counterparts to get their input on those infrastructure needs that tie our entire region together. Some of the input we've received from staff is reflected here in the issue-based workshops that we're going to be conducting as a complement to the large region-wide public meetings that we'll be hosting. One is looking more closely at the North Valleys region. We've received requests to look at what the future connectivity of roadways in the North Valley should look like. We're going to be looking at safety issues and connectivity throughout the North Valleys. Of course, we'll be focusing on safety. We want to reach out to our youth to get input from our high schoolers and middle schoolers and college students in the region, focusing on how transportation can support economic development, identifying what our transit vision is going to be moving forward. Our previous transit vision included the Virginia Street extension to UNR, so that's one that we're very pleased to be accomplishing by the end of this year. And we'll also be looking at the Sparks industrial area, and we have a meeting coming up for that. I believe you might have a flyer at your desk. That's going to be on the 27th from 5 to 7. Oh, sorry, that's the 26th from 3 to 5 at Baldini's. So with that, I want to have a moment to get input from you, hear what your suggestions and priorities are for us to start looking at in the RTP.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cummings. And we appreciate you coming here and sharing with us the kind of a broad overview of what the 2050 RTP looks like. And obviously, as two of our board members sit on the RTC, we wanted to give an ample time to the remainder of our board to add suggestions on what they would like to see in the RTP as well. So with that, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm really excited to see at the top of your list, North Valley's roadway network extension. I think it's clear from the master plan that has been completed by the Regional Governing Board that the North Valleys is going to see a great deal of growth. And we want to make sure that our highways and our roadways in that area are certainly capable of handling the increased growth that we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years. And so some of it needs to be done sooner rather than later. I think we all know that that's the case. But also some of it can be phased in as the growth continues to go up there. So I'm very happy to see that at the top. Obviously, safety is a major concern. We've had presentation here on I think it's called Zero Fatalities. It's the please no hitting children and hitting people who are walking or riding their bikes. And as we know, we've had an abnormally high number since school started. And so I'm really happy to see you focus very strongly on transportation safety. I'm not sure how you fix people who are walking out into the street, you know, looking at their cell phones or playing a game, or people who are driving and glancing at their cell phones. I'm not sure how we fix that. But certainly if our roadways are set up to really be very safe, I think that helps us a lot in resolving that problem. So thank you. Youth transportation issues. I mean, I could go through your whole list. I won't, because I know you've got a lot going on, but really my focus is the growth in the North Valleys based on the fact that we have done the regional plan and the regional master plan has been completed. And so I'm very grateful to see that you guys are re-looking at that and perhaps moving in the direction to get some of that work done faster. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Hartung.
I would certainly acquiesce to Commissioner Herman if she's signed in.
She's not, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So Amy, I've made no secret about the fact that, you know, Spanish Springs is growing rapidly, very desirable place to live. In fact, it may very well be one of the fastest growing areas in the region. I don't know that to be true, but I know that there's a lot of growth that's occurring out there. And in this vision, I don't see Pyramid Highway, and I don't see Sparks Boulevard, and I don't see Vista, which are the three main thoroughfares that move in and out of Spanish Springs. And of course, not just unincorporated, that includes the incorporated area of Sparks, which of course, you know, we all represent unincorporated and incorporated areas. So it's one of those things that even small things can make a very big deal. The example that I've given lots of times is that third lane, just that extension, which I was very disappointed that we did not do. This is not your fault as the interim director, but we should have taken that third lane from Pyramid all the way up to a minimum of Disc. And that was, I just think that was a mistake. We were there, we could have done it at the time. While I recognize that it's only a couple of times a day where it becomes a real issue, it's still an issue. And in fact, just last week, I think it was Friday, it was backed all the way up to Pyramid, and not because of an accident. When there's an accident, it really, I mean, obviously everything goes sideways, but there's no way that a transportation agency can say, well, you know, in the event of an accident, here's what's going to happen. That just changes all the rules. So I'm really not adding those kinds of things in. The other thing that I would like to see, we had a major accident on Pyramid and David James the other day. I've not heard back as to the reason why, but while I recognize that Pyramid is an NDOT right-of-way, the speeds were increased from 45 to 55 through that section, starting at about Lazy 5 and going just past Egyptian/Sunset Springs out to where the road, narrows to 2 lanes and goes on to the end of the valley and out, obviously, to Pyramid. So that was a 45-mile-an-hour zone. NDOT decided without any discussion with any of the other agencies. My staff was not contacted. When I talked to Lee, RTC didn't know anything about it at the time. Our staff at RTC was not contacted. NDOT decided on their own that they would raise that speed limit through there. I've not heard, and blessedly so, that there was any fatalities in that accident, but it was still a pretty hairy accident. So it's one of those things that we absolutely have to look at. We're charged with ensuring safety in the roadways. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Commissioner Herman.
I too am very happy to hear that you're considering doing some work in the North Valleys, because the highways up there are pretty bad. Certain times of day again, but they can get pretty wicked. There's on Pyramid Highway, there's the crossing there at Cala de la Plata, and that light is a problem for I hear complaints about that light, the flashing and then the light. It's not a normal situation. And everybody, they have to slow down to make sure that isn't the yellow light, the flashing light, that you're supposed to be aware that you're supposed to stop X amount of feet. And so everybody's trying to be careful, and not cause a big wreck there. But how do you know? Because it's just very confusing. And it's a very short distance too, where the flashing lights start. I'd just cut those things off if I were you, because it was a good notice when there wasn't the stoplight, but, it's just very confusing to people now.
If I can add on that, that's an issue that Commissioner Hartung has raised at the RTC board to NDOT. And they're going to have an update at our regular February board meeting on their program relating to the flashing lights.
Just cut the wire to it.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Madam Vice Chair, I have you signed in again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually was going to discuss this during commissioners and county managers' announcements, but since it makes more sense to talk to you about it, Amy, and that is Incline Village. And I know that a lot that happens in going up and down from Incline Village is state or not something that RTC is responsible for, but they pay gas taxes just like everybody else, and they get a limited response for what they're doing and for what they're paying for. So it's really a total transportation out of the basin of their income, and they don't have busing, they don't have, they're really not getting anything back for that. And so one of the things I would like you guys to look at as you go into this 50-year study is what can you do to work directly with Incline Village and Crystal Bay to try and resolve a lot of the transportation problems. And it is awful up there, as you probably know. In the summertime especially, it's not quite as bad in the winter, although a lot of people go up for skiing. But in the summer, what we really are seeing are day trippers. And there are people who come up from the San Francisco or Sacramento area and people who come up from our valley area. As our community grows, we're seeing more and more day trippers. And that leaves the streets and all of the transportation up in that area just literally gridlock all the time. And so as you move into this new plan, I would really love for you to work with not only our transportation people at the county who have a lot to do with things going on up there, but also with TRPA, and look and see if there aren't some ways we can relieve a lot of that gridlock that we have up there. So thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Hartung, I have you signed back in again.
I'll be brief. I wanted to put on the record, Amy, thank you. I literally, and staff knows, I'm the bane of their existence when it comes to that flashing light. I think I brought that up at virtually every single meeting with NDOT. Christina Swallow has addressed it. It's very problematic. This is an NDOT issue, and the inconsistency on the highway makes it unsafe. It's just that simple. It just makes it unsafe. So has been noticed by everyone. NDOT is keenly aware. I've made them keenly aware all the time. Yeah, well, not on Pyramid. Trying to eliminate all stop signs on Pyramid. But it is, RTC, what we really need, because it is unincorporated, we really need RTC to advocate for that being consistent. And Commissioner Herman is right. It's a short distance. It's not this great setback when they decided to put those flashers in. I mean, they're right there. So I don't know the solution to the problem quickly other than making them the same, making it flash exactly the same. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Ms. Cummings, thank you for coming today, and I'll try to make my comments a little bit more succinct in the sense that I may not speak specifically to specific issues as it pertains to the RTP, since we've had so many conversations about my concerns, but I believe that as a Washoe RTC, you really are the regional MPO for all of Washoe County. And when I say that, because it comes from, not that any other organization isn't qualified, but I think transportation really is at the forefront of any design or any planning as it pertains. If you can't get there, you can't develop, you can't do anything. And that's really where it comes from, is how do we get people safely to and from these developments, and how do we look into the future about building these roads? So for me, having a broad-based understanding of all the needs as it pertains to growth in the community, and really having that involvement as it pertains to where we're going. And so that leads me to my next request, is that one of the things that's going to help with that growth is these continual meetings, not just once a year with the entities, but more often. I'd like to see that the RTC, NDOT, the county, both municipalities, Reno and Sparks, sit down and have a really cohesive understanding of about what everybody is doing. For example, in District 2, down in the south, there are a lot of thoroughfares, Huffacre, Holcomb Ranch, that are still owned by NDOT, but and maintained by NDOT, but county residents, unincorporated county residents, don't realize that. We should be doing what we can, with the manager's staff, with your staff, and with NDOT to identify how we change and move forward, swapping some of those roads out and some of those, so that the maintenance is better handled by the individual or the organization. And then when you talk, and the vice chair is absolutely correct in the sense that Mount Rose and Incline Village are very much a regional portion of our community that do pay gas tax. And as we can continue to grow, I've spoken to a number of individuals that have relocated from the Bay Area due to the cost. They've sold their homes in the Bay Area for cash that are multi-millions of dollars, and now have two residents. They reside portion of the time in Incline Village and some of the time down here in the valley. And so we have got to have those continual conversations as it pertains to county, RTC, and NDOT, because Mount Rose Highway is a state highway, but then you have regional thoroughfares that connect to that, the RTC is in part of, but then you also have the planning that the county is participating in that is going to be the conduits onto those roads. So we need to have more continual, non-siloed communications about how we do that planning. If we really are going to be the MPO for transportation, you really need to have that broader based conversation with everybody, because we can't build roads that aren't safe, or we can't have connectors and developments and that are adding on to this without having those things addressed. And that also goes into school zones. As we continue to build schools and we continue to add schools through the WC1 funds, it's important that we're looking at those safety features. As Commissioner Berkwiggler brought up, the Vision Zero project and what we're doing, we need to make sure that we're following through, not just sending out marketing ploy and public relations to individuals out there that say, hey, slow down in school zones. We actually have to follow through and start making sure we're working with the school district to provide ample school zones, signalization of those school zones, and make sure that people are paying attention and slowing down, because in today's digital age, even though there's laws saying don't hold your cell phone and Bluetooth and da-da-da, there's not a day that I can't drive down the road and see somebody holding their phone to their hand, or somebody holding their phone as they're crossing the street, and that is a consistency that we're going to see well into the future without any change. So those are the kinds of discussions that I'd like to see be involved in the RTP. And I think the specific issues are definitely something that we need to continue to address, but we kind of got to also address the broader idea of these are bigger things we need to look at. We can't just keep our heads in the sand and say, well, we'll just keep planning roads. We need to start looking at the broader base. So from that, thank you. If those are, we can talk about that in more detail later, but.
Thank you very much. In regards to Incline Village, I know as part of our upcoming budget, we are going to be looking at increasing the amount of sales tax that we provide to TART, which provides transit service to Incline, and the fuel tax that we provide to the county, or in coordination with the county, for pavement preservation in Incline Village. So those are two items that we're going to be looking at in the very near term as well.
Well, and I think the other discussion we need to have as well is that we do, a majority of the funding that comes to Washoe RTC is through a fuel tax, but with the with new electrical vehicles and fuel-saving vehicles coming online and cost of fuel going up, I think that there is a difference we need to also look at as different funding sources, And I know the state is looking at that now about different types of revenue sources, and there's interim committees to discuss what that would look on a state level, but we should possibly be looking at that also at a county level, because it is so much of what we subsidize, how we build our roads and our transit as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. The Metropolitan Planning Organization is the MPO, not, okay. No, so, yeah, and we don't speak, we speak often in acronyms up here, but as the Metropolitan Planning Organization and people who lead in that realm, it's important for the Transportation Commission to have a very forward face in those discussions. So thank you very much, Amy. We appreciate it. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the input.
We appreciate it. All right, Mr. Manager, we are on to item 4.
Item 4 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Clerk, would you please call public comment?
Certainly. First up is Mr. George Lee, followed by Ms. Darla Lee.
Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Good morning, George Lee, Sparks. I just heard some stuff about the yellow lights, the placement of the yellow lights on Pyramid Highway, especially as you come up the hill to go down to where Disc is. You're going north. That is, please don't take that out. That's because you can't see the stoplight from the other side of the hill. And if you're concerned about differentiating between the yellow light of the signal versus the warning, change the frequency of the warning. Nobody's going to be looking for a fast flashing light at the actual signal. I'm here I would like to see more money added to the golf course rebuilding project for Wild Creek Golf Course to get it up to minimum standard for able to be used by all of the previous entities, including First Tee. I've heard that without a driving range, First Tee is basically not going to use the golf course. And when the whole project for the school was originally dreamed up, they didn't consider a separation point between the golf course and the school property. And that's apparently the sticking point for the driving range where they're going to have to put up some sort of a net along the currently designated area where they want to put the driving range. So if that takes more money, they should decide to do something about that, because you want to have that separation between the two. Now, personally, I think that, you know, you should be able to use the soccer field as a driving range, but I don't think the school wants to do that. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Ms. Darla Lee, followed by Ms. Carol Burns.
Welcome, Ms. Lee.
Good morning, Darla Lee for the record, Sparks, Nevada. I understand that the Sparks City Manager has sent over an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to you folks in regard to Wild Creek Golf Course, that this course should be in perpetuity, in essence. And this is something that we, of the citizens of this area, have been asking for quite some time, to get some guarantee or some clarification for this golf course that we have been obviously concerned about for a number of years. So I assume that you folks have that before you, this memorandum, and I would like to encourage you to sign it and send it back to Sparks. This approval from you would assure the citizens, not only of the Wild Creek area, but the whole county, that you truly are concerned about open space and maintaining a really affordable recreation. So I urge you to sign this memorandum. I'm assuming that you have it, since I've been informed that you do. So I hope that you will take action on this very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Carol Burns, followed by Ms. Catherine Snediger.
My name is Carol Burns, and I'm a resident of Sun Valley. I was also going to speak on the Wild Creek, but I wanted to talk about the roads also. But I wanted to also welcome Mr. Brown to our community and hope that he will assist us in our ongoing efforts. The RTC, I have been working with RTC and the NDOT regarding Sun Valley Boulevard, which is State Highway 443. I don't get too much cooperation from the state. They tell me they can't cut down the sage, #1, because it is a state flower. And I don't know, flowers burn as well as everything when they get dry. And everything now is becoming extremely dry because we're not getting any snow. I've spoken with the gal, with the RTC lady, and she tells me that they're going to be putting sidewalks in Sun Valley on the state highway. And I thought, well, good, we're going to finally get some sidewalks through the community. However, they're going to start at the ranch and work their way back to 7th Street, which still precludes 7th to 1st Street in the middle of the valley, which is more or less our community. And we would like to have something on the ground for the children to walk on besides dirt and kicking garbage and weeds apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burns.
Ms. Catherine Snediger, followed by Mr. Michael Moreno.
Welcome, Ms. Snediger.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Catherine Snediger. I'm a non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised natural woman. So the flashing lights on Pyramid Highway are very confusing. The people that come up that are going north, that are going to be turning left onto whatever that road is there at the signal, have a bad habit of stopping way past the line that's marked in the road for where these people turning left are supposed to stop. They go at least a car length and a half past that mark all the time. Everybody does it. It's not very good. Also, one of your favorite topics, containers. Are you aware that the building department is still trying to make people buy a permit to have a container on their 40-acre property? I imagine it's not just on the 40-acre properties. I imagine it's on any property. Now, I think that was a year ago or so that was decided and supposedly taken care of. Well, good old Dave Solero must be running you and the county manager, Mr. Brown, because nothing's been done on it. And that is bad faith. Pure and simple, bad faith. You're not doing the public any favors. You're trying to extort money from them where you've already decided no money involved. Why are you doing that? Why are you allowing it to continue? Why isn't it written into the code already? Should be. It's not. People don't know what their job is? Is that why this is happening? Or staff is running you? I'm thinking staff is running you because nothing has been done. It's terrible. Who's a developer to have been over and done with in 2 minutes? Rewritten, everything, perfect. But when it's for the people, can't be doing that. Got to continue to extort money from them. And a little bit of information, when your code enforcement officer refuses to answer administrative questions, then he's waived any objection to my concerns. So to send me a letter saying a warning, and you're going to have a $100 fee at this time, and a $200 fee if you get a second notice, and a $300 fee if you get a third notice, oh, and you have to go to the request a hearing. The hearing isn't even valid. They don't have the qualifications to hold a hearing. So you guys better get off the stick and start doing something lawfully and in good faith for a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snedeker.
Mr. Michael Moreno.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Lucy, members of the commission. Michael Moreno, Chair of the Washoe County Complete Count Committee. I'm here in a different capacity this morning. I thought since I was in the House, I would take a moment to just highlight the 2020 census that will be starting next month. This is an important census for Nevada, as you all know. I had the privilege of serving as chair of the Complete Count Committee in 2010 and have the honor to do so again. The 2020 census will begin on March 12th. On March 12th, postcards will start dropping at Nevada households, and during the course of from March 12th through April 30th, households will receive up to 4 postcards encouraging them to participate in the census. At the same time, I do want to let you know that it is required by law for us to participate in the census as laid out in the Constitution. And the census has been conducted every 10 years since 1790. The census is safe, secure, and confidential. Any information that we provide is not shared with any law enforcement agencies, any federal, state, or local agencies, the IRS. Again, it's very secure and confidential, and there are severe penalties for sharing that information from the census to anyone, which are $250,000 penalty and 5 years imprisonment. So the census information is released after 72 years. Now there is a new way to take part in the census. It's gone digital. So this year we're asking the public to take the census, go online, but if you're not comfortable going online, you can request a paper form or do the census by phone. The census, we are asking for every man, woman, and child to be counted in Nevada, because only then do we get federal dollars back into our community to help us with important programs and issues that are important to us here in Nevada. Issues like transportation, roads, education, healthcare, hospitals, things of that sort. So if you are interested, I'd be happy to do a formal presentation to you for your benefit and the benefit of the viewers who are watching your commission meetings. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the people that have signed in for public comment this morning. I do have 2 documents to place on the record of today's meeting. The first is an email dated January 29th, 2020 from Elise Weatherly. And the second is an email dated this morning, February 11th, 2020 from Anne Marie Grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we will close public comment, bring it back to the board at this time. We are on to item 5, Mr. Manager.
Commissioner and county manager announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Mr. Manager, do you have anything for us this morning?
I do. I would like to just provide the announcement that there are 2 upcoming events next week with regards to the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Management Act. There will be an open house on Tuesday, the 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Convention Center, and a public meeting 2 days later on Thursday, the 20th, from 4 to 7 p.m., also at the Convention Center on the lands bill. And if anyone would like for more information, we have put up a website. It's landsbill.org for public comment and more information and maps.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, I have Commissioner Herman. I have you signed in first this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Regarding the census, I just, I've known there was money that comes back from Washington DC, and that's the purpose of this census, is to apportion the monies that come back to us, to our county, and $20,000 per person. That is what comes back to us. I was amazed that it was that much. So I think I'll fill mine out. So there's a young lady. She is trying to start a preschool. We've had her here in the audience before, and she keeps coming up against concrete walls here at the county, and I know that certain people have tried to help her, and I've been trying to help her, and I would just like to see us get her through this. It's a nonprofit. It's going to benefit Lemon Valley, and it's in an existing building that she's going to lease. And so I just was hoping that there was, and her name is Sue Walcat Witten, and it's a wonderful project, and she's worked very, very hard for like a year now and spent, $10,000 of her own funds, and I'm going to donate some funds to her cause. And I just think we need to figure out a way to get this thing done for her. So okay, for animal services, I guess there's been a lot of complaints. I wasn't aware of all of them, but in Palomino Valley, people think they can just let all their animals run loose, and I'm not saying that. I mean, people do this on purpose. They think they live in the country, so they don't want to feed their animals. They turn them loose. So I don't know what the problem is, but the only department that can handle that is Animal Services here at the county. So I'd like to see that looked into. Been some formal complaints and some answers from 311. So I'd like to see that get taken care of. And one thing that I think that we need to start thinking and planning for, we gave the sheriff's office the job of removing cars that people have dumped somewhere, motor homes, and the only problem is it's an unfunded mandate, and they're going to need some more funding for that. So I think we need to get that looked into and get it on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. I want to take a quick moment here We just got some news here at the county that a near and dear friend of ours who is very close to many of us here at the county, but as a region as a whole, Mayor Bob Kuchel has just passed this morning. I'd like to hold a brief moment of silence for a man that has been very important to many of us over the years, who's been a mentor to me and a very close friend. It's a difficult morning for our entire region. The man has done a lot for our community. So with that, I'd like to call for a quick moment of silence, please. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, that's a tough piece of news for a lot of us here at the county to hear this morning. We wish the Kuchel family the deepest of condolences at this time, wish them the best in this. So, Commissioner Hartung, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We asked staff and GIS to create a map of the SOI rollback. That there was quite a number of people at the Spanish Springs Citizens Advisory Board that did not understand what the SOI rollback actually meant, how it affected them. We've put up a map. Staff has completed that, so that is taken care of, and I want to thank staff for the diligent work and getting that up relatively quickly. It's actually a really good thing when we look at the SOI being rolled back and how it affects our community. I also would like to tell Mr. Lee that no flashers will be removed. That has nothing to do with that. It's very different. I think you're just misunderstanding what's actually happening. And then for our staff, Mr. Smith, we've talked about the limit lines at Calle de la Plata, so perhaps we need to look at those again. I'm not aware of people not obeying the law, but perhaps we need to make the sheriff aware of that. And then look at the setbacks. I know we changed the setbacks on the northbound traffic so that people towing horse trailers could make that left turn safely without clipping the front of another automobile. But if they're not obeying the limit line, then we'll certainly have to look into that. And then yesterday, Mr. Manager and myself, representing the county, were honored to be at a promotion ceremony for a number of people at the SO. Frank Eubanks was promoted to lieutenant. Dan Bales was promoted to sergeant. Peter Michelle was promoted to sergeant. Marty Obos was promoted to sergeant, and Levi Smith was promoted to sergeant. So congratulations to them. And then finally, that is absolutely devastating news. The Kuchels have been close family friends for many years. Bob and Nancy are just, I mean, they're just a fixture in this community. Yeah, many people don't know that Nancy's father was Parker's Western Wear downtown, and Bob was the owner of Bill and Effie's out on now Boomtown. Yes, that's exactly right, on the highway going out of town. So yeah, his fingerprints are all over this town. He will be sorely missed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Commissioner Burkwick, you have anything this morning? I don't. Okay. All right, with that, we will close our item 5 and bring it back to the board. Mr. Manager, we're on to our consent agenda this morning. This is item 6. So with our consent agenda, are there any items under item 6 that any commissioners would like greater discussion on, or at this time, or any description or have any questions on? If seeing none, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a motion from Vice Chair Burkbigler, second from Commissioner Hartung. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes on the screen. With that, this moves us to our next item, which is which is after consent. Madam Vice Chair, do you have a block vote for us this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do. I propose and make a motion that we put into a block vote item number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10.
All right. We have a motion to block items 7, 8, 9, and 10. Do I have a second?
Second, with a question for staff.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second. Mr., what question would you want, on which one, Mr.?
It's just item number 9. I just want staff to tell us where the funds, the 2.9 million came from for the Wild Creek project. I know where they came from, but I just want to put that on the record. 'Cause
Great.
I think it's
So
important.
before we have the manager read those in, actually, I'll have the manager read those in now, please, sir.
Perfect.
And then I'll have Mr. Solero come down and provide that clarity for you, sir.
All right, item 7, recommendation to award a bid and approve the agreement to the lowest responsible bidder for the Bowers Mansion repairs, Phase 3 project. Staff recommends Sullivan Structures LLC in the amount of $510,840, community services. Item number 8, recommendation to award a bid and approve the agreement to the lowest responsible bidder for the 911 PAR housing unit, number 4, air handler replacement project. Staff recommends ACO or ACCO Engineering Systems, Inc., in the amount of $687,586 and approve bid alternatives 1 and 2 totaling $12,036 and approve a separate $25,000 contingency fund for a total project amount of $724,622, community services. Item number 9, recommendation to approve the resolution to augment the golf course fund in the amount of $2,903,000 to increase fiscal year 2020 budget authority for the Wild Creek Golf Course project and direct the comptroller to make the necessary budget amendments. Community services. Item number 10, recommend to approve the owner CMAR construction agreement between Washoe County and the and the Q&D Construction LLC for guaranteed maximum price number 5 for buildings 600 and 601 for the Our Place homeless housing project in the amount of $2,839,254, community services.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Solero, so we're going to jump back to item 9. Commissioner Hartung had some questions in regards to the 2.9 million. So, Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's just a simple question. It's really more putting it on the record, Mr. Solero. The funds, the $2.9 million that are augmenting the golf course fund, where did those monies come from?
Yeah, for the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. In July of 2019, Washoe County received $3,138,910.63 for the sale of water rights and property to the Washoe County School District. That is the money that we have put aside in the Golf Course Enterprise Fund, specific for rehabilitation and reworking of the Wild Creek Golf Course.
Okay, that's all. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. I do have a motion and a second. I do have public comment at this time. So, Madam Clerk, will you please call public comment?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. And I have, I see that Commissioner Herman has signed in on agenda item number 7. Oh, okay, thank you. First up for public comment under agenda item number 9 is Ms. Darla Lee, followed by Mr. George Lee.
Welcome back.
Hello again. Yes, just briefly, I wanted to urge you to approve this recommendation because I believe that without added funds, the driving range that my husband mentioned earlier and would be, which is a sort of a prerequisite to the first tee using Wild Creek Golf Course as its, headquarters. And this was always one of the primary things that we were concerned about. So if that driving range is not part of it, then, the high school students from the new Hug High will not be available to use that golf course that's just, down the hill from them. And so I really urge you to consider this a very good thing to enlarge the fund, which I believe was actually quite minimal to the upgrades that were necessary to the golf course. So I urge you to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Mr. George Lee, followed by Ms. Darlene Hesse.
George Lee, Sparks, Nevada. The reverse siphon for the ore ditch appears to be pretty close to being finished, which really separates the two properties for the golf course and for the school department. And I notice on item 9, it says augment the golf course fund. And I'm hoping that this means this will be added funds to the project. I'm unable to play golf because of arthritis in my hands, but I'd love to learn, if you know what I mean. And driving range is certainly a big piece of that. Anyway, I'm stand in, I know about standing in opposition, but whatever the other one is, I'm for it. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Darlene Hesse, followed by Mr. Wesley Griffin.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Darlene Hesse, 3035 Malapai Way, Sparks, Nevada. And I'm just so happy to see that the golf courses, the budget's being there. I just hope that, like I remember you, Vaughn, saying you wanted to build a fence around the money. I hope all this money goes for the golf course. And I know you can't ask that question here. But anyway, I live there right next door. It's beautiful. There are so many beautiful birds, and it's an open area, should be protected always. It's just a fine, fine place to live. And I get really most concerned about the animals. I mean, they're just lovely animals on that golf course. And we're getting more and more because now they're building and disturbing the earth. So now we have quite a few others. But I sure hope to heck that all this money does go right for the golf course. And it's just so nice to have open area for people and the golfers. I've seen so many golfers in this last year. It seems like a tremendous amount of play on there, more than ever before. And it could be a really moneymaker, I believe, if all this money goes for that golf course, and a lovely place for all of us to enjoy, all the animals and the people who love the golf. And I'm just here to say how wonderful that I'm seeing now that you guys are going forward on that. And I sure the heck hope that all that $2,900,000, whatever, increase, this is all used for the golf course too, and it has a fence around it, like Vaughn said at one time. Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hesse.
Mr. Wesley Griffin.
For the record, Wesley Griffin. I recognize you all very well. Been here many times speaking, in favor of saving Wild Creek Golf Course. Glad to see that we were able to save the portion that has been saved. Certainly would speak in favor of passing agenda item number 9. Wild Creek is a county treasure, not just a Sparks, but it's a county treasure. We had a golf open house meeting back in October of 2017, had any number of local golf pros come in and talk about the necessity of having an adequate number of holes to sustain golf in our area. We, at that particular time, had lost close to 100 holes of golf here in the area. And you know better than I do the building that's going on and the people that are coming into our area. Any number of people coming into the area would not be able to afford to play golf without a public course, without public courses. So it's something that's needed. It's in the comments that we've heard people talking in favor of keeping the golf course. They've said, look, I don't play golf, but I drive down McCarran Boulevard, and it's wonderful to see the open green space. So it's a public park. Some people have argued that, does it really pay for itself? I talked with Mr. Chisel, who was at one time with the Parks Division of the City of Reno, and now with the RSCVA, he's the financial director. And I asked him just directly, do we know if any of the parks are self-sustaining? I mean, take any park, take Rancho San Rafael, take the Horseman's Park. Do any of those actually sustain themselves? And he says, we have no idea. So to single out a golf course, one golf course, and suggest that it needs to be self-sustaining, I think is somewhat hypocritical. It needs to be, if that should be the case, then it should be the case for all courses and for all public parks. So I urge you to approve item number 9. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's all the public comment we had signed in, sir.
Thank you. So we have a motion by the vice chair and a second by Commissioner Hartung to approve items 7, 8, and 9 in a block vote. I will call for the vote.
And
All those in favor?
10, Mr. Chair.
And 10, I'm sorry, thank you. 8, 9, and 10, and the block vote. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Manager, we are on to, with that, our final public comment.
Yes, public comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right. Well, I have Miss Catherine Snedeker signed in this morning for our last panel. Welcome, Ms. Snedeker.
Thank you. For the record, Catherine Snedeker, non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised, natural woman. Just for a little bit of information, the wreck on Pyramid Highway was at about 1 or 1:30 in the afternoon. There's very little traffic at that time. I don't believe speed had a thing to do with it. I think it was somebody jumping the gun, trying to make a left-hand turn and not noticing the truck coming right at them, because that's the kind of head-on it was, and I saw where the accident was this morning on the way in, and that looks like what happened. It's driver irresponsibility. It's not speed. 55 miles an hour was determined by the public. They put those little lines out, those little rubber things where there's a little box that counts cars and it counts their speed. And most people go 55 even when it was 45. A lot of people are going 60, but I would say for the majority, most people are right around 55 miles an hour going through there. It's perfectly safe. It's these drivers that decide they got to pull right out in front of you that's the problem. Just like with pedestrians being hit, large number of it. Well, I got to tell you that the Sheriff's Department and Public Service did a great job on putting all the blame on automobiles, that pedestrians aren't responsible at all for their own safety. Where are all the advertisements when you're at night, wear reflective clothing? I can't tell you how many times I've gone around at night driving and there's been some guy in black or some gal in black or very dark clothes that just walk right out in front of you because you've taught them that the cars will stop for you. Well, you got to teach them also that cars weigh, I don't know, from 2,000 to 8,000 pounds, and they're not able to stop quite as fast as a human. We need public service announcements to tell school children to walk along the sidewalk, don't play, and don't push each other into the street when cars are coming. That happens all the time. Where is their responsibility? When I was in elementary school, we had the chief of police that came to our school all the time to talk about kids' safety and automobiles. How much of that is going on in the school? Oh, I don't know. None. You guys are so out of touch, just like with the containers, and that not being written up yet. What the hell is wrong with you? It's been 4 years we've been going on about the containers. The last one was a year ago, and it's still not done. Bad faith, irresponsible, and incompetent.
Thank you, Ms. Snedeker. All right, seeing no further public comment signed in at this time, I will bring it back to the board. We are on to our final county managers and commissioners announcements. Mr. Manager, do you have anything else you'd like to add today?
Only that the item number 10 is actually the final installment on upgrading our place development. Didn't think we should let that go by without acknowledging that we're making great progress on that front.
Great, thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Wattsfield, do you have you're signed in, but.
I did. First, I just wanted to say thank you all very much for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Chris Hicks for offering me this job. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that he's demonstrated his confidence in me and in our office. I wanted to say thank you and congratulations to Mr. Liparelli, who gave quite a stirring speech when he was last here. I will leave my version of that speech a tad shorter by simply saying, as I said the other day when he was leaving our office, that Paul leaves behind both big shoes and a bigger hat to fill. And we wish him the best. I also wanted to announce that Nate Edwards is now the Chief Civil Deputy. We interviewed and hired him last week into that position, so he's our latest and newest chief. And then finally, again, I wanted to say thank you to you guys and to express my appreciation. I get the privilege of working with some of the smartest attorneys in the city and in the county. They work very hard. They're an incredible group of individuals, and on behalf of our entire office, we're all looking forward to representing this board, our management, and the county into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wattsfield. And then I actually had a few extra things I just wanted to throw in here this morning for a quick request from the manager. Mr. Manager, I would like to see in the near future, we had this at the Nevada Association of Counties meeting last month or a couple weeks ago down in Las Vegas, opioid lawsuit update into regards to where we are with that. And so we have hired outside counsel. I know we are working with the law office of Bradley, Drendel, and Janae through and Egglet Prince out of Las Vegas on this lawsuit. So if we could get a report from their office in regards to where we are, what the status of that is, and how we are moving forward. And then in addition to the discussion, what I'd like to ask of you, Mr. Manager, and also Ms. Lewinhagen and her comms team, I'd like to reach out to Washoe County School District and see if there's a possibility, at least in the south, to work with interim director, superintendent, Dr. McNeil, and set up some town halls with myself and the interim director to go to the schools, talk to parents about traffic safety and what we're doing and some of the new, and I think it's just an opportunity for us to do some outreach within the community about community issues and see if we can set up some town halls through the schools and kind of do a joint town hall meetings. I know Commissioner Weekly has been doing that with some of the schools that he represents in his district, but I'd like to try to see if we can do that up here as well from that standpoint, if they would entertain that idea. And that's all I have for today. Anything else by any of the commissioners? All right, seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.